Welcome to Comic Tour Reviews, and this topic is about DC movies and what they could do uh, basically to make more. And I was recently talking with Leo, also known as Devil's Toys UK 2. I'll have his link in the description. If you don't know who he is, uh, he's a cool guy and you should subscribe to him. It's a really good channel. And this video will talk about some of the topics we were discussing. And, when you look at Marvel, and we're talking Marvel Studios and their movie division, and we're not going to talk about movies that they don't have the character rights to. We're talking about only the characters that they could base films on. And I have to admit, in their early years, I didn't think that they would able to be a good company. I thought it would be very hit and miss with them as a company, that they wouldn't get projects done, that they wouldn't get films completed. They actually were able to be a legitimate studio. While the first few years might have been, let's say, shaky, right now, they are a real company. They are a reliable company that when they announce a film, it's pretty solid that a film will be produced. We're talking about the movie industry that basically, and you've heard the stories that they're supposed to, let's say a company is supposed to make a movie, and then it's like over a decade before a final project is made. You've heard about that stuff before, that studios used to get like the rights to a property and then do nothing with it for over a decade or more, or even close to 20 years. Some films that were first announced into when you finally saw the finished product. With the movies now, and especially Marvel Studios, they're on top of their game in that when they announce a movie and they say it's going to be released a certain year, guess what? It is released that certain year. And they're the company that is not only saying they're going to make movies, they actually follow it up and make the film. And that shouldn't be underestimated, because that is quite an accomplishment. And the problem with DC is, other than Batman and Superman, and even Superman is not solid at this point, what is DC doing movie-wise to improve their superhero movies or their brand? Because I think if you were to talk to the person on the street, that the one brand that stands out for superhero films, movie-wise, is Marvel, because they've produced so many at this point. And there's more on the way. We already have films from Marvel that are already announced and are either being made now or will be made soon. And how come every May for the past few years, on the first week, it's always a Marvel movie opening the summer movie season? They're always having that top spot in the first week of May, and it's a Marvel movie. DC, and as I said, I was talking to Leo with this, is the one thing that Marvel has that DC needs is a Kevin Feige type of person. And who this is like, he's the head of Marvel Studios. DC needs their own head. Right? When I say DC, I should say Warner Brothers, because Warner Brothers owns DC. So I'm just going to use the DC word, because when I say that, you think of the comics. Because if I were to say Warner Brothers the whole time in this video, you would say, like, who's that? What do they have to do with DC? But they own the DC properties, so just wanted to clear that up. Anyway, what DC needs is their own Kevin Feige type character, and that is basically a corporate suit who will have power within the company, to hire people to discuss. He's sort of like a middleman between the people who actually make the films and the corporate suits above him. He's that guy who bridges the gap between those two worlds, and he's the one who has power from the people above him to get things done. That DC needs a movie leader who can fill that role of getting things done, of putting things in motion, of making sure projects are developed, and someone who will follow up projects from the start until the end and plan things for their world. You need someone at that level, and it's not Christopher Nolan. People have mentioned Christopher Nolan, and that's not his calling. He's a true filmmaker, and he has to follow his own calling, and I don't think Christopher Nolan's role is to be that of a corporate middleman to bridge the DC world. He's a filmmaker who makes films, director, writer. That's his world. It's not to be a Kevin Feige type of person, and not for DC Comics. And that's just something I don't see that he would be interested in, and I don't think he's interested in that type of world to be at that role. But DC needs a corporate suit to be at that level, who understands the DC Comics world, who understands the movie business, and who will hire the people and be on top of the situation, and who will hire people and basically be at that level to get things done and to make sure that projects that once started will be completed. And that is a real key position that Marvel Studios has that DC doesn't have. I mean, if you would ask the Warner Brothers or the DC movie-making staff, okay, you have a bunch of great characters. Now, who's the one go-to guy or go-to group of few people that you have that are going to get things done? Who has the power to call the shots and start things up? You know, who? Do you have a studio? Do you have a production crew? Do you have filmmakers and things of that nature that's going to get things rolling? And the truth is, it seems very piecemeal at the DC Warner Brothers movie production staff that, okay, maybe a certain person will have one thing here and another person will have another thing over there, and they don't connect. You need someone to connect all the projects together and make sure everything is flowing in the direction that you want. And until the DC movie crew is able to establish their own studio, I think that's what they really need, their own, let's say, filmmaking branch to get things done. I don't think they're going to be really successful in terms of getting a lot of films out on a regular basis and to build your brand. One good thing that Marvel Studios has done is they have some of the top comic, like, editors-in-chief or the writers or top staff who are actually working and making the Marvel comic books. They're sort of like consultants to their film division. And so when you actually have the comic makers working in at least some role with the filmmakers, it helps assure the quality of the film, that you're going to get a comic type feel to the property, that the characters are not going to be unrecognizable when you see them on film. I think if DC is to have a Kevin Feige type of situation or their own studio movie branch, they need someone like Jim Lee or Dito or someone to consult. You need the people who are actually making the comics to have not a big role, but just to look over the scripts, you know, look over what's going on in the movie division. And I really think at this point, since the Marvel Universe on film has been so successful, that if DC is to really make a movie division, that they have to link their future films together. There has to be some connecting point. And I'm not really sure at this point what it would be. At least Marvel got lucky in that Shield is a great bridge between the different properties. That is a good element to bridge the different worlds together. And I'm wondering, what could DC use worldwide to bridge their films together? And also at the same time, you don't want to seem like you're copying the Marvel movies either, concept-wise, because that idea has been taken. And you also have to hire, if you're making a DC film division, you have to hire and keep the same actors from film to film. Now, sure, the Hulk role was changed, but overall, you don't want actors being replaced every other film. You want to try and keep a good, stable amount of actors for a pretty good film commitment to make a certain number of films, and that those films will link together where one character meets another. I mean, I guess one of the biggest ways that you could tell, compared to Marvel, that DC is failing in their film division is, why don't we have a Wonder Woman movie by now? Why isn't the character as a film being put into production, developed, or even talked about? You see, Wonder Woman is one of DC's iconic characters. She's a worldwide icon, and even people who don't follow comic books know who this character is. Plus, you would appeal to the female movie-going audience. This is the same audience of women, because most of these superhero movies appeal more to men than women. Well, in this situation, you look at stuff like, let's say, the Twilight movies. Who sees most of that? Women. You see stuff like Hunger Games. Who sees that? Mostly women. So if you make a Wonder Woman movie, and it is of good quality, believe me, you thought the superhero films now that made a lot of money have made a fortune? If you can appeal to women in that division, essentially, your film's going to take off and you're going to make a huge amount of money, especially with an icon like Wonder Woman. And yet, all I hear is talk, no production, no hiring of actors, nothing. And it's been years since Marvel has been making films. You would think after Superman, after Batman, Wonder Woman would be the third character that you would have at the top of your game to say, develop a film on this person. No excuses. This is the person you want to focus on because it's an icon, worldwide appeal. This is something to make and not just talk about. And here it is, years later, still, that's all you're hearing about is talk. You hear talk of a Lobo movie. You hear talk of Wonder Woman. You hear talk of Flash. You hear talk of even Metal Men. Where's the commitment to an announcement? Marvel has said they're going to make a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and I'll tell you, one way or another, they are in fact going to make a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And you will see it on screen. You could count on it. With DC, you just hear announcements, supposedly of a Justice League movie script, and supposedly they have other properties. Yeah, it's all supposedly. I think as the audience now, we want facts. We want to see a commitment that says you're making a movie and at this year you're going to see a film. It's going to be produced and it will be on screen. With Wonder Woman, here, if you gave the Wonder Woman and it was the Marvel situation, I'll tell you, Wonder Woman would already be in production. They would be shooting that film next year and a year later, and it would be in the theaters, and they would be developing a sequel already in script, and they're going to shoot that film as well, and they would have the main actress for Wonder Woman already, and they would have them into a long-term contract. DC, here you have an icon, and you're doing nothing with it. You're talking of developing Lobo. You're talking of developing, let's say, as I mentioned, Metal Men or some other property, and you're letting a true money maker just sit there and do nothing with it but just talk. That shows you how screwed up their movie division is. That example. That, you're sitting on a vast fortune of movie potential, and you're thinking of putting her on a TV show like last year. That's to talk. They want to put this icon on a TV show when the big money is in the movie division. A TV show, seriously? Yeah. And it was looking bad, so I'm glad they canceled that idea. But, you just don't think that way. You gotta take advantage of the hot superhero movie business that's going on right now. This trend might not be here forever, and you gotta strike while the iron is hot, as they say. And the superhero movie industry, it has been hot the last few years. Because even though there have been some ones that have not been good, every time you get a hit, it helps all the other superhero movies rise above. If Marvel was in charge of the DC division, as I mentioned, Wonder Woman would already be in production. They would have a Green Lantern film reboot, or the first one would have worked if Marvel had their way, and that would be in production or be linked to a Justice League movie. They would have something with the Flash ready. They would have something with Aquaman ready. The DC film division, what they should be doing is focus on their big names first. And then once you get the big name movies out there, then not only could you link them up, but then you could focus on some of the smaller names and work together. Maybe make some of the smaller names appear in the big name movies, and that could be a link. But just getting back to Wonder Woman, just that example, that's the difference between what Marvel Studios is doing and what the DC or Warner Brothers film division is doing or not doing in terms of the companies. That's the big difference. And sure, I would like to see a bunch of DC movies that were high quality as well. But I'm guessing we're not really seeing that, is my point. You're seeing maybe one DC film a year, if you're lucky, if even that. But you're seeing about 4 Marvel movies a year. And we'll also talk about the other studios making Marvel movie characters. But you're seeing about 4 films a year from Marvel stuff. And you're hearing announcements next year of new movie stuff coming up. And DC, all you're seeing is, well, not much. Next Batman will be a reboot, and that's going to be years away. It's not going to be anytime soon. And Superman is, at this point of the video, it's not tested as a property in terms of will this be the hit they need? Hopefully it will be. And will it be the start of them linking their movie division together? It should be. I really think that the new Superman movie has to be that connecting point that starts their world of connecting films together. Marvel Studios has shown that linking films together has been quite profitable. You look at the success of Avengers, and had it not had the individual movies, I don't think Avengers itself would have been as successful. It was that build-up between the different characters, and now you see them all together, and you had a great script and director, that it's no wonder it was so successful. And DC, I guess that's the point of this video. And the main points are that they need a leader for their own studio division, someone who could get things rolling. They need to do that. They need to hire actors, at least for the main characters, to a pretty good contract in terms of number of films. They need to focus on the main characters first in their universe and build up on that. And then maybe connect them with some of the smaller character names, and they have to eventually link it up to a big movie. I mean, there's a lot of work to do, but they have the characters, they have the potential, and they're just not really focused on working it properly. At least that's my view in the situation. Hopefully we'll get some great films, but at this point, it's mostly Marvel films year to year that are the ones on screen and the ones making the superhero money. And it's kind of a shame that DC is really dropping the ball on this topic, and they're not properly linking their stuff together. Maybe that's going to change soon. We'll see. So thanks for watching, and talk to you later.